Yesteryear is a very funny example of a book that people either love or hate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine by me
Mm-hmm.
because that gets people talking. I would rather publish a book that half the people love and half the people hate than a book that 90% of people like a lot.
Chances are you know Jenny Jackson as the author of some of your favorite beach reads. Her debut novel, Pineapple Street, was a New York Times bestseller. And so was her next book, The Shampoo Effect, which I picked for my book club this summer. But she has a double life in the literary world. Jenny is also an acclaimed editor and the editorial director of fiction at Knopf. She's worked with famous authors like Kevin Kwan, Emily St. John Mandel, and Carol Claire Burke of this year's hit, Yesteryear. Join us as we speak about being on both sides of publishing and the ingredients that make a truly special book. I'm Jenna Bushhager, and this is Open Book with Jenna. Jenny, I'm so happy we get to hang out and talk about this book that that you wrote and that I love. But also, it was so funny because you were on the show and I was sitting thinking, like, you are this star in the literary world, which I know, but probably people at home have no idea, like, what your day job entails. So talk about how you kind of straddle this publishing world.
Sure. Yeah. The past couple of years have been so funny because it's been me getting on like the wrong side of the camera, stepping out from behind the curtain. But so I've been a book editor at Penguin Random House for 25 years, which is crazy. And so in my day job, I've worked with almost all novelists, but, people like Kevin Kwan, people like Helen Fielding, Cormac McCarthy, Gabrielle Zevin, Emily St. John Mandel.
Like, listen to these names. It's amazing. And we have some authors in common.
We do.
Ruman, right?
Yes. And Emma Brody.
Yes.
Lauren Fox.
Yes.
Courtney Sullivan.
A lot.
A lot. Yeah.
Because you came to the studio once recently and
Dolly Alderton.
Yes. Dolly.
That's right.
I know.
We must have pretty similar tastes.
I think we do. But also how wild that then my taste would be your own work. So talk about because I think some people that just love books don't really know what an editor does.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's behind the curtain.
Truly. And I think there is this common perception that being an editor means that you're reading all day. And I really wish that was true, right? That's the dream job. But actually being an editor is meeting with literary agents, getting them to send you stuff. Yes, reading those, sharing that with your colleagues, deciding how much you should spend on those books, running profit and loss sheets, actually acquiring them, going through the contract for them, working with the art department to find a jacket, working with the interior design department to come up with a design, pitching it to sales reps, writing the copy. It goes and goes and goes. And
you're
yes,
not even mentioning the editing part. Yeah.
That the editing is the nights and weekends, like editing, you probably spend, 40 hours, 60 hours editing the book. And that all happens on weekends and evenings.
When you think about all of these authors that you've worked with, which is like quite a list, you just named many of them, what do you think is the common like secret sauce that makes for a great book? Because you're across genre.
Yes.
When you just named that list, no two authors really exactly the same.
No, I'm always looking for a book that is doing something I haven't read lately or I haven't ever read before. I think that's the biggest challenge because we work in an industry that's constantly looking for comps or,
Yes.
One of the things that librarians often talk about is like an also read. Oh, you read X, you should read Y. And so a lot of our industry thrives on recommendations that are very similar to other books that are hot in the market. Unfortunately, if you try and publish that way, you're always going to be 2 years behind the trends.
Mm-hmm.
And also, if you want to sell an okay number of books, give people something predictable. If you want to sell a huge number of books, give the people something they never knew that they wanted. Publish that book about two friends designing video games. I mean, we could not come up with comparative titles for Tomorrow
No,
and Tomorrow
and
and
now,
Tomorrow.
just because I work in this world now too, now tomorrow is a comp for everything.
Is a
Have you
comp.
noticed that?
Isn't
Like,
it so funny?
yes.
Yeah, but it's really like this is our industry is very cyclical, and if you can come up with a book that feels so new and different, you start a trend, and then basically there's books that follow on that trend. Gone Girl did that, and Gone Girl ushered in this whole era of
Yes.
psychological fiction,
Yes.
or Harry Potter did that, and it ushered in this huge era of adults reading young adults, and so when you have
Crazy
these
Rich Asians.
Crazy Rich Asians, and especially for book jackets.
Yes.
If you go and look, all the rom-com and romance jackets look like Crazy Rich Asians now.
Well, and you just did it again with Yesteryear, which is a book and the reason why I knew you were in the studio is I had finished it. I had read it early, and then I knew that you acquired it. And for people that are listening who don't really know, like if Jenny Jackson gets a book, you know it's going to be good. And that's amazing. I mean, 25 years in, that's like when you loved to know that about yourself 25 years ago.
Yes.
And Yesteryear's one of those books that has just been this phenom.
It has been such a ride. We knew we had something special on our hands. And when the agent sent out Yesteryear, I read it overnight and I tried to preempt it. And the agent was like, we have a lot of other people interested. I can't let you take it off the table. So I sat on my hands for like another day. And then I came back with more money. And I said, I really think it should be a Knopf book. I really want to take this and preempt it. And she said, we have to see the lay of the land. So stalker, I love bombed the author. I mailed her flowers. We went to auction. I bid the absolute most and ended up with it. I just felt like this level of passion because it was doing something so intense and so different. Yesteryear is a very funny example of a book that people either love or hate. And that's fine by me because that gets people talking. I would rather publish a book that half the people love and half the people hate than a book that 90% of people like a lot.
Totally. And I also, one of the things that sort of is my mission and the reason why I do any of this is that I find that books are sort of this innocuous space that lead to conversation and to disagreement, which we're not doing enough of as a society around like the really big things.
Yes.
So let's start with like the Trad Wife novel that has all of us talking, Like I feel like it's the one place where we're still getting together and disagreeing.
And I've seen a lot of people talking about Yesteryear, specifically saying, I don't like it. And I've realized what often that means is it made me uncomfortable. And I think that people are not always willing to feel uncomfortable, but I think it's really good for us to feel uncomfortable because that means we're exposing ourselves to different worldviews, which is going to hopefully in time build empathy and build connection and let us see people who, view the world in a different way.
Totally. Okay, so let's go back to the beginning of your career. I read that you wanted to be a writer from a young age. What sort of kept you from doing that?
So I wanted to be a writer. I thought getting into publishing would be a good way to do that. And so I applied to the Columbia Publishing course and I started, studying to be a writer. I got a job to be an editor. I got a job as an editorial assistant. But the thing that everybody says to assistants is if you want to be a writer, don't work in publishing. You will feel jealous of all of your writers. You won't have the creative bandwidth to do it. If you want to be a writer, go get an MFA, but don't do this. Unfortunately, by the time I heard that, I'd kind of fallen in love with editing because being a book editor, specifically being a young editorial assistant, you have joined the greatest book club on the planet, right? Like your boss gives
you're
you a
reading
manuscript.
everything.
Yes. Discussing it with the other assistants at work. And then maybe you're like placing a bet on it. I was a goner. I loved it too much. And so I just felt like, okay, if that's a choice I have to make, then ta-da, I've made the choice. And I was happy with that choice for 20 years.
What was there? So obviously there was a moment where you thought like, I'm going back to this original dream, but in the advice that people told you, which is you will be jealous of your writers. Did that ever happen?
Well, it's funny. Yes. I mean, there are moments where I feel jealous of writers. I don't know. Sure, maybe some of my writers, definitely also other writers. I've come to regard professional jealousy as something a lot more positive than personal jealousy. I don't think personal jealousy is a useful emotion. I think professional jealousy can be really useful because it can tell you what you want, right? If you see somebody getting success or finding a readership or speaking to some, prestigious group or writing a TV show and you feel jealous, hey, is that something I want to be doing? Hey, I should try and do that. And so, of course, yeah, I do sometimes feel jealous and I try and listen to that as information about what I could try
Yeah,
next.
I know. It's so, and I think that you're so right. And I've never thought of it that way. And I also think it's easier to think of it that way in retrospect.
Yes.
Like, isn't it easier to think about that for you now after you've published 2 books?
Yes,
Because
right.
it might have been this emotion that was not productive had you not actually listened to what it was saying.
Yes, but I still see people doing things that I have not done or I have told myself I can't do that I think are incredibly cool. So I still have like all these rungs on the ladder up ahead of me and I just have to figure out if those are rungs that I'm capable of climbing or if it makes sense for me to climb them. But I hope that I continue to find other people I feel jealous of.
Yeah, that's such good advice for young people starting out because
Mhm.
it is different than being like comparing yourself or thinking about sort of basic things like hair or you know what I mean?
Right,
Like it's
yeah.
something you can actually do with that emotion.
Right, right. I mean, I guess there is that expression that comparison is the thief
Thief
of
of
joy,
joy.
but that is sort of, I guess, predicated on the thought that you can't change what
Yes.
you have. Maybe you can.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what was the moment where you went back to this original dream?
It was during COVID. And if I'm to be totally honest, I had been writing quietly, secretly, little bits here and there. I would go on vacation, I would write something, I would get an idea, I would write something. I never even really finished a short story. There was stuff I thought was good, but I hadn't finished it. And then during COVID, waking up at 4:30 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, freaking out. My children aren't in school and I'm staying with my in-laws in the country and my kid just poured magenta nail polish into my mother-in-law's silk carpet
Oh my
and there
God.
was there was a lot to be stressed out about. And so I realized I needed to do something with that stressful feeling. So I started writing, and the kind of writing I was doing was wish fulfillment. I wrote about parties. I wrote about people getting together, people being out in the world, people flirting, people gossiping, all the things that I was missing when I was in the woods with my little kids and the nail polish
Yes.
disaster.
Yeah.
And so I think writing as wish fulfillment is really a fun way to go about it. And it just unleashed something in me. It was, other people were discovering all kinds of other amazing gifts, whether they were running marathons or they were gardening or they were baking. And this was a discovery.
Did you did so and I think writing as a wish fulfillment sort of gives you a freedom where it's not like you feel like there's something that needs to come from it for sure. Like I think
Right.
if you were like, okay, this is a book, I've got it, this is a book, you might have felt sort of stalled.
Yeah.
Did that it did you when did you know like you wanted it to be something bigger?
So I think in general, I try and think about bite-sized pieces, and I still do that because thinking about writing a book is so scary. And so I usually think about writing 2,000 words, and then I think, oh, if I write 2,000 words twice, that's a chapter. And so I'm always just doing little tiny bits to get me there. I have this amazing friend. His name is Todd Dowdy,
I know
and he does
him.
communications for our group. And Todd became kind of my accountability coach. And so I would just text Todd a word count every day. And Todd would text me back, keep going.
Mm.
You've got this. Keep going. And having somebody at the other end of the line when, again, in the woods, not seeing anyone, having someone at the end of the line who thought it was really cool that I was at 40,000 words made me want to get to 42,000 words.
It's like you need that type of Todd.
Yes.
Everybody needs a Todd.
Yeah.
If
Someone
you're
who
trying to
believes in
conquer a dream, right?
That's right.
Was there ever a moment where you thought like, wait, I can't do both of these things. I can't be an editor and publish a book.
Yes, but I also am unwilling to give either up. And I've had a few people say like, okay, when is the moment? You know, you have 2 bestsellers. When is the moment where you feel like you can quit being an editor? And I laugh. I'm like, why would I want to do that?
You love your work.
I love my work. I have the best job in the world. I'm never going to quit.
But I wonder if you ever thought like, was there an example of somebody you had known or seen who had done both?
I have seen a few people do both. There's this amazing guy, David Ebershoff, who has done both.
I love him too.
And he really does it so gracefully. And then, you know, I would never dare even compare, but Toni Morrison did both. And I think that it's just a matter of always keeping in mind what your responsibilities are to your writers. You know, when I'm working with my writers, I'm very church and state about it. When I am their editor, I am no longer a writer. It's never about me. I'm not going to ask them to read something I'm working on. I'm not going to ask for their advice. As far as they're concerned, not only am I only an editor, their book is actually the only book I'm working on. I don't even like to talk about my other books with them because I think that's something they really deserve. And so as long as I can keep giving my writers everything in the moment, then I believe I can still do both.
So you published Pineapple Street and it was an instant hit. People loved it. People loved to discuss it. Like I kind of can remember the summer it came out because I saw it on the subway and on beaches. Did you feel like, do you have the same feeling about your own work that you have about others' works? Like where you were like, this will probably sell.
It's so interesting. I think that remember earlier I was talking about how with Yesteryear, how I love a book where half people hate it, half the people love it.
Yes.
I don't have that feeling about my own work. And so once in a while, if someone says, oh, you know, I had so much fun reading Pineapple Street, but I hated all the characters.
Yeah.
I hear that and I'm like,
that's
what?
rude. Yeah.
Those are my babies, you know? So it's like, apparently I want to like have my cake and eat it too. I'm like, okay, for other people, you can love it and hate it. But for mine, I would like you just to
like
love it.
Just love it. Just like it. But did you know it would sell?
I knew Pineapple Street would find an audience. I felt like Pineapple Street was a zippy book that was like kind of like, you know, meant to be read quickly for pleasure. So I felt like I got what it was. I think the Shampoo Effect is kind of a different beast. It is not as neatly constructed. It's not as overtly satirical. There's sort of some uncomfortable secrets here. I hope the characters are deeper. I think it's a little bit of a messier book. And so I've been open to getting feedback as much as I can stand it from people who say like, oh, I really didn't like this character or what this character did. But I think I'm okay with hearing that because I know I made something messier.
Well, and humans are flawed, right? Yes. Like it shouldn't just be like, I love everybody. That's not the way life is.
No. And no heroes or villains. That's not my thing. I want good people who mess up and try and do better.
Well, I was telling you like that I found this book at the perfect time because I have a really close group. I went to a big public high school in Austin, Texas, and I have a really close group of friends. And we went through something hard last summer. And I haven't been in high school. I mean, I'm 4. And so I haven't been in high school in many years. And my sister said, all of our guy friends stayed in Austin. And many of our girlfriends too. Barbara and I are like pretty much a few of the only ones who have left and stayed away. And Barbara said to me, I always thought like, oh gosh, all these guys would stay together. Like how sad that they didn't get to come live in New York, which is obviously us putting our thoughts on them. And she goes, and then I realized they needed to stay together because 25 years later, they were going to really need each other. And I was reading this book as I was watching my friends, and your book is not sad in any way. It's fun and delightful, but we were going through a hard time.
Yeah.
And that history,
Yeah.
that shared history and perspective that we've had for so many years, even if we don't talk all the time,
Yeah.
like we needed each other so much.
Yes.
And then I found this book and I was like, oh, like other people feel this too in different fun ways. What was the catalyst for writing this? Like, do you have a group like this?
I do. I have some amazing friends from when I was a kid, and it's really funny how much of them has kind of accidentally woven into this story. I mean, there are stories of us on houseboats and stories of us, sneaking out and going to the beach late at night. But also, I think that the theme that I really wanted to get at is that in some ways you're growing at the same time, and then you hit this funny point in middle age where things stop being exactly on track anymore, right? So when you're little, you all you get your driver's license
Yes.
at the same time, you graduate at the
Yes.
same time, you prom
You're
at the
all
same
taking
time.
SAT classes. Like there's such a
Yeah.
shared experience.
And then there is this awkward time where, maybe one person falls in love first and settles down first. Maybe somebody gets a really good job and they really lean into their professional life, and things start to feel unbalanced. And it can create this kind of feeling of frustration with each other where you think like, why are you making these different decisions than me? Do you not agree with what I'm doing? I feel judged about my life. Now I'm going to judge your life. And, it's inevitable that you hit these speed bumps. Over time, as you get older, it starts to even out a little more.
Yes.
And you start to feel like, okay, you did this first, I did that first. We can still come together. But there is a funny friction in these old friendships when you're making different life decisions, especially when you've grown up together. And in order to keep those friendships close, you just have to say, all right, we're going to ignore these uncomfortable things. We're going to let it go for now, but they're still there, and that's what makes these long friendships valuable and also tricky.
Yeah. You said when you were on the show, and I think this is so true, like one of the truths of this novel, but really of life and of long-lasting friendships, is that friendship is conditional.
Yeah.
Like we all can think of like the one friend, or I only have one that, wasn't right, and it like didn't work out. And so what did you want to explore and while you wrote this book?
I mean, I think we all feel more haunted. I'll speak for myself, more haunted by that friend breakup than we do by romantic breakups in our lives. I think that forgiving each other has been kind of one of the most magical things in the way I've been able to stay so close to those friends. I also think that parenting alongside friends is such an incredible gift. I mean, my children are elementary school age, and kids at this age want to be with other kids.
Totally.
They don't want to be with their parents. I'm not that interesting to them anymore.
Wait till they're 13. Then they're like, bye.
And if we can just link up with other friends who have kids in matching ages, that for me right now is the most magical social dynamic possible. It feels like our families are kind of saving each other every time we get together to barbecue, every time we get together to go to a movie, every time sometimes we'll just come over to each other's houses and be like, can we just order pizza?
Yes.
We can't be in our own house right now, And that's so valuable.
I have that with Savannah and her kids. We were next door neighbors in New York City, which was like also made, both of us aren't from here. So it really made New York feel like this small town. But also my daughter would walk her son to the first day of preschool. The parents would walk the kids up, and our kids took the bus because obviously we're here. We can't take our kids to school. Yeah. So Poppy would walk Charlie to every single day to like pre-K and drop him off. She was a year older and would sort of and it was like the teachers were like, their relationship is beyond any, brother and sister, because no sister would
Would be
do
that
that for their
kind.
little
Yes.
brother. And there is something about it that creates that exactly what you're right about, which
Yeah.
is this really long lasting friendship.
The found family.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, so I read too, and I feel a little embarrassed to ask this because your husband is in the room, but I won't make eye contact with him.
No, we'll pretend.
Okay, I'll pretend he's not here. That Van is modeled a little bit after him.
Yes. And when I gave him an early copy of the book, he was lying there, and every 10 pages, we were lying in bed. He would look over at me and be like, "Really, Jenny? Really?" I'm like, "I'm sorry."
Like, tell me the details that I'll know.
So Van is this like serious environmentalist, and
Yes.
he is so good. And sometimes his goodness is just such an absolute pain for everybody, because you're going to be running late, but Van will see somebody on the side of the road trying to move a ladder by themselves. And despite how late you are, he will just pull over to go and help with that ladder. Or you're walking on the beach and you're trying to like have a romantic time on vacation, and he is picking up not just beach trash. Like, we're not talking about like a piece of a shovel. We're talking about like those long, dirty pieces of plastic that have like been part of some piece of like marine salvage, and he's like gathering it all up, and then his hands get full and he kind of looks at me like, "Shall I hand you some of this?" And I'm kind of like, absolutely not, So those Van traits are 100% his traits. And I wanted to write about these characters because Van is the center of this love triangle. And there's one character who sees all of this
Yes.
in him and thinks it is magic.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. And then there's another character who's sort of like, yuck, stop doing that, And as we all know, in our marriage, we occupy both roles.
Totally.
Like 90% of the time, amazing, magical. 10% of the time, I am not touching that plastic garbage.
Totally. Maria Shriver said to me once that like I said something about my husband, which I can't even remember, and I'm also not going to say to protect my marriage, but something. And she goes, everything you fall in love with about the person is what ends up driving you crazy about the person 25 years in. And I was like, oh my God.
Yes.
You're so right.
Yes. I can tell you the day I fell in love with my husband was we were walking down the street. We were going to go play tennis, and we saw an old man kind of falling sideways out of his wheelchair. And my husband basically ran through traffic and helped the guy back into his wheelchair. And in that moment, I was like, that's my man.
Yeah, I'm
that's
gonna
my
marry
guy.
you.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
So, and I do think that kind of love triangle is so satisfying. And I wonder, so since your husband has a large role in the creation of Van, are you either of these characters? One is a writer.
Yeah. Like, I think inevitably a writer has to put a little bit of themselves into every single character. But I would say I'm definitely more Caroline than any of them. She's the writer. She's the outsider and the observer. And I've noticed that is one of my, I don't know if it's a character flaw or what, but in a new social situation, I like to hang back and scope it out before I dive in. And that's very Caroline.
Mhm.
And so the funniest part in writing that character is my editor said to me, all your other characters spring off the page,
Totally.
but I don't get Caroline. And I was like, oh, she was so obvious to me. So I had to go back and really work on her because she was crystal clear for me, and I had to make sure everybody else got her.
Did you, one of the things in both of your books, which I've loved both, is sense of place is such an important part of how you write. So this town, which is based off of the town, you fictionalized the town you grew up
Yes.
in. First, why did you fictionalize it?
This was the silly, well, okay, there are two things, one very silly and one also silly. But so I was trying to write it as Ipswich, Massachusetts, where I grew up. I lived in Ipswich from, when I was 2 until I went away to college. I haven't lived there as an adult. And I started getting this really weird imposter syndrome because
Yeah.
I would write something like, this group of friends wants to get drunk and wild in a town with only 2 bars. And I'd say, well, someone's going to jump out and say there are
Yeah.
actually 8 bars. Or,
Yeah.
I wanted Bailey's water to break at the clam box at 10 in the morning. And I could just picture somebody coming out and saying, the clam box doesn't open until noon.
Yes.
So these like little things were driving me crazy. And I said, hey, just for a test, I'm going to change the name of the town to something different. I'm going to call it Greenhead and just see if that frees me up.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's like the imposter syndrome evaporated and I could just write.
Yes.
And then the other little joke there is that when, John Updike wrote his famous book Couples, which was set in Ipswich, he renamed the town Tarbox. And so it was sort of an inside joke for me that I was going to rename the town in the way he renamed the town. And then just to totally mess with everybody's head, I created a John Updike-like character in the book called Palmer Preston.
Yes.
And I made his famous book called Tarbox. So it was just 9 levels of meta here.
Well, you said this in your interview on the Today Show, but like one of the things that's hilarious about the inspiration for this book is there's like a really sort of, both based in where you're from, a really high brow inspiration and then a lower brow inspiration.
Yeah.
Tell everybody that.
Yeah. So when John Updike wrote Couples in 1968, it was not just a scandal in town, but a scandal all across America. It was the most salacious book ever written. It was the height of the sexual revolution. He was on the cover of Life magazine.
God.
And I mean, people, they almost pulled it because this book was juicy. It was about wife swapping and adultery. And it really, I mean, it's pretty spicy, as the kids say. And it cast this spotlight on the town. Out of all of the friendships in his circle, people were saying, who is this character? Who is that character? All these couples got divorces, and
God,
John
isn't that
Updike,
wild?
he had to move his family to London for a year so that it could cool off. And so that got me thinking, what would it be like today to write a novel set in this small town where a writer kind of blows up everybody's secrets? But also, things are different now, right?
Yeah.
Like 1968, sexual revolution is over. The birth control pill was brand new then. It's old news now. We're right now, our ideas of marriage are so different, right? It's like gay marriage is legal. Women can have a baby on their own. You don't have to marry your partner. So that got me asking, what would really shake people up? What would really get people, jaws wagging about marriage in a small town? So much of the idea grew out of me wanting to think about contemporary marriage.
And that came from another Massachusetts icon, Tom Brady.
Came from Tom Brady, the New England Patriots quarterback. So he got his girlfriend, Bridget Moynihan, pregnant and didn't find out until he was dating Giselle. And they handled it completely classily. But of course, it was like page 6, Us magazine. This was the era where, you would go to the nail salon and read Us Weekly and read all about it every week.
Yeah.
But I couldn't stop thinking about it because when I had a baby and I looked down at my baby's face, I was the most in love I've ever been. But I also just kept seeing her father in his face. I kept seeing my husband, and it made me feel really in love with my husband. And so then I kept thinking, wow, what's that like for Bridget Moynihan?
Yeah.
Is she seeing like Tom Brady's face in the baby? And what does that feel like?
Yeah.
So I wanted to get into not just how you act in public about a baby that is with your ex, but what that might do to your heart. And when you're already, so exhausted from birth and a new baby, and you have all these over the top loving feelings, do they start to kind of get mixed up? Do you get confused about who you might really love?
Well, and that's what you have to read the Shampoo Effect to answer some of those questions.
Yes.
What did your hometown think of the book?
It was an amazing event. So I was a little trepidatious. I would say I was more nervous about my hometown event than anything else. Adding to that, my mom invited 200 of her closest friends to the book launch. So it was massive. I mean, totally sold out. I had sent an early copy of the book to John Updike's son, Michael Updike.
Wow.
And I didn't expect Michael would read it or anything. Not only did he read it, he wrote back this incredible letter that had all these coincidences in it that just were mind-blowing.
You didn't mean.
So one small one is that there's a scene in the book where Caroline kind of gets her kayak stuck on the shore where they're shooting a movie at the Updike family home. He said to me, I remember this summer they shot a movie there. What? I made that up.
Yeah.
They really shot a movie there. And then the craziest one of all is he said, my wife is actually a costumed interpreter at Crane's Castle, where you have Caroline and Van meet on a costumed interpreter tour. And he said, would you like to come take the tour? And so while we were up on Wednesday, John Updike's son and his wife, dressed in a period maid costume, gave us a tour of the castle. And I got to see all the real places from the book, including the office where Van would work on the third floor of the castle.
After you wrote it?
And when I wrote it, I didn't even know that
existed.
No, not at all. It's just so meta and crazy on 9 levels. And it was just so special to feel so welcomed by my hometown and welcomed by the Updikes and welcomed. I have to say, Tom Brady hasn't chimed in yet. I'm sure he will.
You're waiting to find out. Yeah.
I'm here. Hit me up.
Yes, exactly. That is so wild. Okay, we have to get to some questions from the Read with Jenna community.
Amazing.
Because they have some for you. The first, in Shampoo Effect, Caroline is tempted to transform the lives of her friends into fiction. As both an editor and a novelist, where do you draw the line?
Oh, I love this question because the line is so gray and it moves all the time.
And also, people are kind of narcissists. So don't you feel like, and I can't remember, but I was just talking to somebody about this, I think a writer, where they were like, somebody would say, this is based on me. And they were like, no, this is not.
Totally. Or even some tiny detail that you didn't even remember, where it came from. They would say, that's my bathrobe in the college scene. What?
Yeah.
So what I try and do is if I recognize that I have stolen something from someone's life, I show them an early copy and I ask how they feel about it. And if they're unhappy, then I change it or I kill it.
Has that happened?
Yes.
Whoa.
So I've changed some pretty big things because people weren't happy about it.
That's very gracious of you.
Well, it's like we're talking about this stage of life. It's pretty hard to hang on to your old friends. And so I'm not going to risk them, Then also there are some where I will disguise them and try and, make them unrecognizable. I think one tried and true trick is if you swap someone's gender, they really won't recognize themselves.
Yes.
And then one of my favorite hints that came from a New Yorker editor is that if you ever want to write something negative about someone, but you don't want them to object, just talk about how utterly gorgeous they are and how beautiful they are, and then they'll let it go.
It's like a compliment sandwich.
Exactly.
Start with the beauty and then get to the truth.
Shade, yeah.
Okay. Have you ever been to the actual Greasy Pole event?
I have watched it from the land. I have not participated in Gloucester's Greasy Pole.
It always is like, you've seen those like online. I mean, everybody can imagine it, even if you haven't been there, because you just imagine the falling.
Too many teeth are lost in the Greasy Pole. People,
among other things,
break elbows. People break toes. For a long time, I was under the impression that only men did the Greasy Pole.
Yeah.
I watched this year, the 2026, and I saw a woman out there. So God bless her. Yeah. She is a braver woman than
You're not inspired.
Absolutely not. I have really expensive orthodontia from being a teenager.
We
can't mess that up.
No. Okay. A reader said, I love the Shampoo Effect. The ending was perfect. Okay. I'm very conscientious of spoilers, so I wanted to read this. Did you decide on the ending for 2 of the characters before the rest of the characters?
So I
just changed that question because I'm scared.
I knew the very end. I knew that for sure. I knew the twist in the middle, but I did not know how 75% of the characters were going to end. I didn't know who all was going to find forgiveness and who wasn't. And in some of them, in my first draft, I sort of thought I was done, and my editor said, you're not done yet. And so I had to write a lot more, and I had to write my way through some really tricky scenes that ended up being hilarious, but that I was intimidated to write.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense. Which character changed the most from the first draft to the final draft?
Caroline changed the most. So yes, because she was, like me, and I felt like I hadn't explained enough about her. But the interesting thing about that is that Caroline arrives as the newcomer. She doesn't have friends.
Yes.
Everybody else has
Yes.
friends. And you get to know those characters because they're having these honest conversations with their friends. Their friends are talking about them. Their friends are teasing them. She didn't have friends, and so we couldn't know her. The moment I gave her a best friend,
Yeah.
Nina, who she can text and
Yes.
talk to, all of a sudden that character opened up.
And that
She
makes
needed a
total
friend.
sense. Okay, so one, now I have my own questions, but quickly, what is left to do for you? You said there's still more to do. I know you're writing a screenplay.
Yes.
Are you writing the screenplay for Pineapple Street or Shampoo Effect? We have mixed research.
So I have written a pilot episode for the Shampoo Effect.
Okay.
And my agent is out with it. We have some interest. And so I'm doing a call later today. And I'm having so much fun thinking about it. You know, it's really interesting to say, are there like hills I would die on? Or is it like just anything to get it made? I mean, it's somewhere in between.
But is that
right?
one of the things that you watched other people do and thought like,
Yes.
why not me?
Yes, that's something I've seen other people do and felt jealous of and thought, let's have a productive emotion here and try it
Yes.
yourself. And it might not work, but let's give it a whirl, you know?
Why not?
Yeah. And then Pineapple Street is under option, but I haven't written anything on that. And then I have a couple more tour events, and then I would love to get going on my next book in the fall.
I mean, Jenny, what is happening? You're so productive. Do you
Well-
still wake up at 4:30 in the morning to write?
I don't, but I drink a lot of Celsius and green tea and Diet Coke.
By the way, I drink Celsius too, and I don't think that it's good for us.
I don't think so either.
I only have one a day though.
Yeah. And I have to have it early.
Me too, Monday, and it starts at like 4. I have it on my drive-in at like when you're waking up to write,
Yes.
4:30.
My other guilty thing is that I will bring half a Celsius to tennis because I really think it makes me better
Better
at
tennis player.
Yeah.
I would love to drink a Celsius and play tennis with you. I love tennis so much. Okay, and this was not a Celsius ad, and don't drink it.
No, hydrate.
It's bad for you.
Hydrate, yeah.
It's bad for you, but we drink it. Will you give us some book recommendations? Books that like made you
Yes.
want to be a writer when you were young?
Yes.
First one, a book that made
Yes.
you want to be a writer
Well,
when you were young.
you know, I'm so fascinated because this one has become trendy lately, but the book that really surprised me the most was when I read Lonesome Dove
Oh,
by
yeah.
Larry McMurtry. And it
Yes.
is wild to me that it is trending, but it should be. It is a long Western epic. And I read it over the course of one summer. I was a receptionist at a company that got no visitors. And so I just read all day long. And that one really opened my mind to the kinds of books that I can fall in love with. And then, you know, more recently, I have fallen so deeply in love with Lily King.
Me
I think
too.
Lily
Me
King is
too.
everything she writes is so incredible. That's the last book I read that left me sobbing hysterically on the
too.
sofa.
Me too, man. Writers and Lovers was a read with Jenna
Ah,
book club choice. And I
Yes.
didn't know till like, which also I'm like, where were the girlies telling me that this was like I was going to say that Writers and Lovers is like a prequel
yes.
for Heart the Lover, but you
Yes.
don't really know till the end because he doesn't call her by her real name.
No, and I even missed it at the end. It was only like the discourse around
Yes.
it where I was like, oh yeah, okay.
I know. And then didn't you want to go back and read Writers and Lovers to like, because she references the relationships.
Yes, but I like a book that can stand on its own two
Yes.
feet. You
No,
know,
it
I don't
was
want to
not-
feel.
It was in the same area, but not at all, you know?
Yes, totally.
Okay, well, those are great. I mean, as a Texan, I loved the first recommendation. I studied
Yes.
him in college.
Oh, you did.
And Catherine Ann
Yes.
Porter and Cormac McCarthy and all the Texans,
Oh man,
which we have
yeah.
some good writers down there.
You do,
right?
Yeah,
Or we
I'm going
had.
to the Texas Book Festival this year.
good.
I'm so excited.
My mom started the Texas Book Festival.
Oh, that's incredible.
I hope you have fun.
I will.
Okay, well, Jenny, thank you so much. You guys have to read The Shampoo Effect if you have not, but a lot of people are reading and it makes me so happy to see it everywhere.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations. Thanks so much for joining me on Open Book with Jenna. If you enjoyed our conversation, be sure to like, subscribe, and share the episode. Also, drop us a comment. We'd love to hear your thoughts. I'll see you next time.
Hey, thanks for watching. And don't forget, you can catch the Today Show every morning on NBC or take Today when you're on the go. Just follow the Today podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.